Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the brand new Friendzone project called Collection 2. Friendzone is the title of a duo of producers, and under the name of Friendzone, these guys have basically pioneered and shaped the way of cloud rap. Through their career, they worked with a lot of influential artists, some of which, when they worked with them, weren't that big, but have become the staple name of some of hip hop's biggest artists, mainly A$AP Rocky. Under the name of Friendzone, they also worked with people like Main Attractions, who, although aren't the biggest hip hop artists going now, again fall under that same category of influence and being the godfathers of cloud rap. The main producer out of Main Attractions, Squad B, and Friendzone as a collective had a very similar stylistic sound when it came to producing music, mainly hip hop. This is basically heard through their use of very airy and ethereal synths and using a lot of manipulative and glitchy, mostly female vocals as well. Although Squad B himself is a great producer and has made some of my favourite cloud rap songs, it's mainly that we can see through Friendzone that Main Attractions happen to have two of their biggest songs, one of which being Chutch and the other being Perfect Skies. Around 2012, Friendzone released Collection 1, which is a mixtape with a lot of instrumentals that they created, including the instrumentals for Perfect Skies and Chutch. And this actual project is one of my personal favourites. The whole project, despite having instrumentals made for different artists, flows seamlessly and includes some gorgeous piano work seen in the track Chutch, as well as the track Moments. But also there's some fantastic and beautiful ambient music as well that can be seen in such as tracks like Don't Give Up, which is very reminiscent of Spyro 2's Autumn Plains. The entire record has a very bittersweet feeling, and it's something that Friendzone has basically continued throughout their career. This constant feeling of wanting to reflect on both happy and sad times when listening to their music. It's got a constant feeling of nostalgia as well. This entire record invokes a very bittersweet feeling. It's almost like a nostalgic type of aura that surrounds it, where the listener wants to reflect on awkward and uncertain parts of their life and reflect on the happy and sad moments too. This isn't exactly on the nose either, it's just my interpretation, but I do feel that their entire career throughout the instrumentals that they've made always has this very emotional and kind of confident aura around them. These emotional and bittersweet feelings I always feel when going back to this project, and it really encapsulates how I was feeling when I first heard it about 7 years ago now. Things like, first being in a relationship and thinking that I've secured a well-paid permanent job, and just as a person thought I was growing and getting my foot in the door on a lot of different things. All of that's since gone now, but hey, at least this mixtape isn't going anywhere. Friendzone's material grew in popularity and in terms of production style thanks to appearing on the debut album by A$AP Rocky, Long Live A$AP, and later in 2015 fully producing Main Attractions' album 808s and Dark Grapes 3. The emotional feelings to people who listen to Friendzone and myself and other fans of Friendzone would probably not only appear because of the time that's since passed when Collection 1 and their album DX was released, but at the same time it'll be felt because of the passing of one of the members of Friendzone, James Lawrence. Because of James's passing, I was certain that that would be the last I'd hear of Friendzone, not only because of the large amount of time that's passed since they've released any material, but the other member of Friendzone, Dylan Resnick, has since pursued his own solo endeavours by going under the name Chlorine Mist. Chlorine Mist material still evokes that very woozy and evocative feelings that Friendzone had, but this is more in part due to the production style and not so much the genre it's covering. This isn't more cloud rap as such that he focuses on electronic, glitch and ambient music. It was also because of this kind of new sound that Dylan was exploring that I thought that for definite that Friendzone wasn't coming back. It was kind of a fantastic chapter in a now closed book. But hey, here we are now, and I'm ecstatic to report that not only is Friendzone back, but this collection too stands up to what Friendzone was releasing in the past. Now, firstly, the question I was asking when I heard this was released, and some of you might be asking too, is does this actually feature any work from James? And some songs do feature James Lawrence's production works, but not only that, the songs that don't still very much feel like Friendzone. Especially songs that were new actually did exist before now here in instrumental form, such as the song Fashion Killer by A$AP Rocky, which now appears here, as well as Solar Flare, which was a song that was produced for Young Lean's, I believe, debut project Unknown Memory 2002. These songs appearing on this Friendzone Collection 2 project is fantastic because not only are they great instrumentals in themselves, but because they were released so far back, it almost feels like this project as a whole could have actually been released in 2013 and following up very quickly after the first collection. Almost like this massive gap didn't even happen. It's great to hear these songs in instrumental form, especially Solar Flare, which up until now I didn't really notice how busy the beat was, the intricate beat production as well as the really manipulative vocal styles. It makes us kind of appreciate Young Lane's track now, how he was able to flow on the song. Now, whilst it's great to hear songs I'm already familiar with, it's the ones that I'm unfamiliar with that I was even more excited for. Could I imagine the much younger version of me walking around in a big city with my old iPod Classic listening to Collection 2? Yes, I can. And immediately the first track, Appropriate X, kicks things off brilliantly, making you feel that Friendzone is indeed back. It has all the ingredients for a great Friendzone track, the very manipulated vocal styles, the very skippy hi-hats, the very thumping kicks, and of course the very synthetic layers as well, which makes it very ambient and cosy. Following the track Fashion Killer, we're greeted with two fantastic tracks. These are Intimate and Grey Ice. Intimate, for example, incorporates samples that sound like a couple having a very intimate moment, and as well as that, sounds of what sounds like seagulls as well. It's almost like the listeners recapping on a particular moment that they had with someone on a beach or something. The backmastered vocals that appear in the latter half of this song swell up more and more and build up and envelop the entire track. It's almost like the person who's listening to this is actually asleep and the experiencing a dream and they're slowly awakening. Whilst Intimate was a bit more of an ambient track, Grey Ice definitely picks things up a lot more with this gorgeous synth layer, these really nice sort of buzzing synths that's used and a very nice steady rhythm going throughout it too. To me, this is a much more uplifting song, and again, it's kind of like a vague memory, but a lot more positive. The uplifting design is heard not just with the really ethereal female vocals going throughout this track, but the samples that are involving what sounds like kids cheering. And again, when I'm thinking about if this was like a vague memory that someone was having and recounting some good time that they were having, it's almost like the person's remembering a time that a load of school children were cheering them when they were at school and they maybe scored a home run or scored a goal or something. The use of the samples being really fragmented but still being uplifting is kind of like someone who's vaguely remembering a very cherished and happy memory. The next track, One Up, has a definitely more somber tone to it, but I think it's equally as gorgeous. I particularly love the lead synth that's used on here. I think it's definitely focused on a distinct, melody. I'm going to be a bit biased as well because the sort of seesaw synth that's used on here I think is very reminiscent to the roller coaster levels that's used in Donkey Kong Country 2, made by I believe David Wise. And if you're at all familiar with that, you know that song's great. And hey, Donkey Kong Country 2 probably my favourite video game soundtrack of all time, so it's got that going for it. And speaking of video games, not only does the next track Your reference through its title a similarly dreamy game, Nier, but at the same time it actually samples the pause music to a very dreamy game called Eco. Now the pause music in this game has actually been used in a few Cloud Rap song instrumentals, which is quite interesting. I know it's been used, for example, in Tyboy Digital's Legendary Member track off the Legendary Member project that he released a few years ago, but it's also used in a song called Flowers Rise, which was featured in Little B's seminal mixtape God's Father.
spicy. Had you in my arms, take care of my baby.
And I wonder what it is about this little ditty that is so prominently used in cloud rap instrumentals. For me personally, I think it could be two things, one of which is Eco is a very dreamy game and is getting on a bit in terms of its age, so that people who are a fan of cloud rap might be nostalgic about this game too. But there's something about how minimalistic and yet cosy this little ditty is done, makes it very suitable for the sort of aesthetics that cloud rap goes for. The way it's used in this track by Friendzone is definitely a bit more warbly and I think pitched up a bit, which makes it almost sound like running water in some sort of really nice Zen garden. This whole thing about this track is so nice and calm, and I really do feel like I've just sitting in the summer sun and watching the water glisten and listening to some distant wind chimes. And the outro on this project, Reboot, kind of brings back the feeling that was brought on the beginning of this project, bringing back a sort of nostalgic feeling of simpler yet better times. And I like the idea of it being called Reboot as well. It's almost like Friendzone themselves are saying that they are rebooting and coming back and making projects, but at the same time as well, the name Reboot, it makes us think of things like TV shows, and the samples that are used here, very sort of random and chopped and spliced. It sounds like someone is actually flicking through loads of TV shows. So the project as a whole isn't exactly perfect. I think the track 5318 My and another one called Sat Final, although are really nice and good, I think are a bit too minimalistic for their length, and although keep the same sort of feeling that's go out through the project, just don't really stand out to me as much compared to other tracks on here. As a whole, however, I think this is a brilliant project and it makes us so happy to know that it's here, it actually exists, and I'm sure other people who are a fan of cloud rap like me are really happy that it exists too. And what makes us even happier is that Dylan recently announced that there's going to be a Collection 3. You know, it's fantastic to know that Collection 3 is in the works, and I hope this review will enlighten some of you guys about Collection 2, about its existence, and maybe some of you might want to check it out from what I've said too, if you'd like to support Friendzone and their work. I'm going to give this project a strong 8 out of 10, and who knows, if enough time passes as it has when I used to listen to Collection 1, the rating might just go a bit higher. So that's it everybody, thank you very much for watching, hope you take care of yourselves, bye for now.
Thanks for listening.